When you get rich, tell no one. I know. The first time you hear it, it sounds like something a paranoid uncle whispers in your ear. But this got burned into my head because of my father. My dad ran a small hardware store in a little town in middle America. Opened at 6, closed at 7. His hands were calloused, his car was old, but he paid rent every month, put us through school, never complained. He was the least flashy man in the neighborhood. And 30 years later, I found out he had more money than most of his neighbors ever would. Nobody knew. He never said a word. That was the day I realized that the money I'd made in the oil business wasn't worth much on its own. What mattered was how you carried it. I'm Roger. I've been making oil investments for over 15 years. I've seen fields from Texas to Wyoming. Millions of dollars have moved through my hands. And let me tell you, the gap between people who are actually wealthy in this industry and people who look wealthy is enormous. The ones who want to look rich usually lose. The quiet ones win. Why showing off is the fastest way to sink. Most people don't actually want to be rich. They want to look rich. The difference between those two things determines everything. Think about it. You buy a new luxury car. Now you need clothes to match the car. You need restaurants to match the clothes. You need vacations to match the restaurants. And before you know it, you're working harder to meet other people's expectations. Expectations you created yourself. This cycle has a name, the appearance prison. I've watched dozens of investors fall into this trap. They came into the game with a solid deal, threw their first earnings around, and 3 years later had nothing left. I know a guy who runs a major oil field in Wyoming. Every morning he puts on his worn work boots and drives a beat-up truck to the site. His crew has no idea he owns the whole operation. He eats lunch with them, laughs at the same jokes, drinks the same coffee. That man sleeps at night. Because nobody targets him, nobody expects anything from him, nobody inflates their prices for him. And there's this, the moment you flash money, people change. Friends you've known for years start thinking he can afford it. Distant relatives suddenly appear. Suppliers quietly add a zero to the invoice. I can't blame these people. It's human nature. But you can get ahead of it. How? By not giving them more information than they need. Stealth wealth, the fortune nobody sees. This is exactly what stealth wealth means. You build serious money, but nobody around you has any idea. You drive a reasonable car. You live in a modest house. You don't overpay for your meals. And this isn't sacrifice, it's strategy. Like my dad used to say, Roger, the richest men are the ones who look the poorest from the outside. They sleep the best. I've seen it in the oil business too. When the market's good, everyone brags. When it turns, everyone disappears. The ones who stayed quiet, who kept swimming through the downturns, had built something underneath. An invisible foundation. Relationships before and after money. The moment you start showing wealth, the biggest risk isn't security, it's your relationships. Once people know what you have, every conversation carries a question mark underneath it. Does this person actually like me? Or do they like what I can provide? It's a strange kind of loneliness. People all around you, but you can't fully trust any of them. One of the most powerful things about stealth wealth is this. You get to see people's real character. When they think you don't have money, you find out who's actually in your corner. Who offers to help without waiting to see if you'll pick up the check? Who invites you somewhere without expecting you to pay? That knowledge shapes who you keep close for the rest of your life. The practical edge. This is where real money disappears. There's another concrete benefit to keeping your wealth hidden. You stop being a pricing target. If your mechanic sees you pull up in a luxury car, he'll find problems that don't exist. If your contractor senses deep pockets, he'll pad the bill. If your financial advisor figures out what you're worth, he'll steer you toward products that serve his commission more than your returns. Every one of these systems is trying to figure out who has money. If you stay under the radar, you don't become the target. When I walk onto a field in Wyoming, nobody knows what I'm carrying. I talk like an ordinary investor, dress like one. And I get honest offers. That's not naivety. That's tactics. There's another layer to this that most people miss entirely. When you're not broadcasting your wealth, you get to see the world as it actually is, not as people perform it for you. I remember sitting in a diner outside of Midland, Texas, early in my career. Worn jeans, plain jacket, cup of bad coffee. The guy across the table from me was a land broker, and he had no idea who I was or what I was looking at. He talked straight, gave me real numbers, real problems, real opportunities. No performance, no sales pitch dressed up as advice. That conversation was worth more than 100 polished boardroom presentations I've sat through since. That's what flying under the radar gives you, access to the truth. When people think you're just another guy, they stop filtering what they say. And in business, unfiltered truth is the rarest and most valuable commodity there is. Compare that to what happens when you walk into a room and everyone already knows you have money. Every sentence gets calculated before it leaves someone's mouth. Every offer gets inflated before it reaches your ears. Every handshake comes with an agenda already baked in. You're not getting reality anymore. You're getting a version of reality that someone else decided you should see. I've watched guys come into this industry with big reputations and even bigger watches. And within 2 years, they'd been picked clean. Not by criminals, by smiling men in conference rooms who knew exactly what they were dealing with and priced accordingly. The stealth approach protects you from that. You stay anonymous, you stay dangerous, in the best possible sense. You can walk into any room and assess it clearly because nobody's assessing you back. There's also something to be said for what this does to your own mind. When you're not performing wealth, you stop thinking about wealth constantly, and that mental freedom is worth more than people realize. I've known guys who made serious money and then spent the next decade mentally imprisoned by it. Not because they were greedy, but because they'd attached their identity so completely to their financial status that every market dip felt like a personal attack. Every conversation that didn't acknowledge their success felt like an insult. They'd built a life where their self-worth was denominated in dollars, and that's an exhausting way to live. When you practice stealth wealth, you quietly separate your identity from your net worth. You are not your portfolio. You are not your car, or your zip code, or your watch. You're a person with skills, relationships, and a particular way of looking at the world, and those things exist completely independent of what's in your bank account. My dad never introduced himself as a successful businessman. He introduced himself as a hardware guy. That was his identity. And it kept him grounded in a way I didn't fully appreciate until I was much older. He never had a bad day in the market that shook who he was, because who he was had nothing to do with the market. That kind of psychological stability is genuinely rare. And it doesn't come from having more money. It comes from needing less recognition for the money you have. How the appearance prison makes you poor. Think about it this way. Someone paying $1,500 a month on a luxury car has spent $180,000 over 10 years. Put that same money into an investment, oil shares, real estate, whatever, and you end up in a completely different place. The math is simple but real. Every dollar spent on showing off is a dollar pulled out of growth. While someone chases status symbols, the person building quietly is 5 times further ahead after the same 10 years. There's a concept in psychology called hedonic adaptation. People get excited when they buy something new, but a few months later that feeling fades. That luxury car is just a car now. But the payment continues. The excitement ends. The bill stays. Buy a reliable car. Invest the difference. 10 years from now, while the luxury car person is still working, you're setting your own hours. What real wealth actually is. There's an old saying, there are 3 kinds of rich. When you're poor, you mow your own lawn. When you're middle class, you hire someone. When you're truly wealthy, you mow it yourself again, and because you want to. When you reach that point, you're not trying to prove anything to anyone. You choose what to do with your day. You spend time with your family. You get to the field early, leave early. You read, think, rest. None of that has anything to do with a luxury car. My dad told me near the end, money doesn't help people know you, Roger, but it helps you keep the wrong ones away. I understood that, which is why I still walk onto the field in worn-out boots. To close keeping your wealth private isn't sacrifice, it's protection. You protect your relationships, your business opportunities, your peace of mind, and your compounding returns sticks, because every dollar you don't spend on showing off keeps growing for you. When you get rich, tell no one. Build quietly. Live your freedom privately. And never forget, the best kind of rich is the kind nobody sees coming.